Three, two, one. Hello, everyone, and welcome along to another episode of Mindful Leadership. And I have my amazing co-host, Natasha Rocha. Hello, Natasha.
Hello,
And
everybody.
we have special guest this week. We have Darren Saul. So excited to have you on also, Darren.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
We're so excited to have you. And before we jump into the conversation, I'm just going to quickly read out a bio, and then I would love if you would elaborate on that, right? I'd love to know more about your journey. So let's jump into this. So Darren is a serial podcaster, strategist, trainer, coach, keynote speaker, and student of human attention. I love that. And he started heavily utilizing the power of podcasting to build his photography business and was so amazed with the results, he never looked back. He's now a podcast junkie who consults with organizations to help them get serious business results, integrating podcasting into their marketing strategy. And he says, yeah, podcast is not a nice to have anymore. It's an absolute must have. And Darren loves people. And he loves to share the insights, stories, and knowledge he has gained over the years. And he's very passionate about helping others develop and get results, feeling fulfilled as marketers and entrepreneurs. So welcome very much, Darren. That is so exciting. I love how you've merged your passions and how one led to the other. But give us a little bit more about your story. How did you discover
Yeah,
this world of podcasting, really?
it's as we were talking just before we jumped on live,
Mhm.
it's funny that just sometimes podcasting or anything just finds you.
Mhm.
And that's what happened to me. So I've been a corporate recruiter for many, many years. I'm still working heavily in the recruitment industry. I work in IT and tech, and was doing that for a long, long time. I had a big passion for photography at school. So I used to have the keys to the dark room and I was in there printing black and white photos and all that kind of stuff. And then I kind of left that for ages and ages. And after a certain point, I thought, you know what, I need a hobby. I need to break away from the corporate world a bit and just release some creative expression. And so I picked up a kit camera. I started doing some courses and I became obsessed again and just went right into photography and started working semi-professionally or part-time professional. And at a certain point, I started to realize that marketing and business development, really, prospecting, was changing. You know, we used to have the yellow pages here in Australia. We used to have magazines. We used to have the newspaper. We used to have letter drops. You could ring people and make cold calls, which I did a lot of when I was in the initial parts of the recruitment industry. But things were changing, and I thought, you know what, I've got to start learning a bit more about this new world of digital marketing and digital media and social media and what is all this stuff, you know? And so I dived in as I do, and I kind of love to go all in, and I started learning and watching YouTube videos and all sorts of stuff. And I fell into this lovely world of podcasting, and I thought, this is great. It's such a fun way to build a brand, build content, learn at the same time. And I thought, I'm going to do this. So I started up two podcasts, which I run to this day. So one is my smaller podcast for the recruitment industry. That's very niche. And then I have my larger podcast. That's what I call my variety show. And I talk to anybody about everything and anything in between. And we have a lot of fun and I've learned a lot. And then throughout that journey, I really started to understand how passionate I was about photography, about podcasting, about this medium. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to start teaching other people how to do this because people were asking, how do you start a podcast? Where do I begin? What tech do I use? Should I prepare? Etc., etc., etc. So I thought, you know what, I've been doing this for quite a while. I'm going to take this a little further and see if I can make a little business or a side kick out of it, really. So it's nothing that's, you know, not a massive business, but it's just a side hustle of mine and a passion project. And since then, I've taken it further and I've put together all sorts of digital courses and digital products and workshops and speaking and all that kind of stuff all around. So I've built this ecosystem around podcasting, which is my passion. So I hope that kind of gives you a bit more of a bit of a story about, you know, how that all happened.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. For my disclosure, I just left my corporate career in I was in Amazon for the last 8 years doing
Wow,
artificial intelligence and software systems for recruitment. Um,
amazing.
and that was a lot of fun. And I have this like, maybe it's a rhetorical question building up inside of me that
Mhm.
I want to ask you, and to
Sure.
share a little bit about my podcast journey. Is that I always wanted to find new and continue to explore new ways to express myself.
Yeah.
And so I sing, I do a hi, it's John meditation message each morning after
Great.
my daily meditation. I do live streams where Natasha and I were live yesterday on her
Mhm.
channel doing like psychic and akashic readings and clearings for people. I also just walked my dog. I did a 17-minute walking along with a bit of a shaky camera, talking about, you know, what's going on in my life. And the house renovations are going to kick me out of my house, so I won't be there for a couple of weeks. I'll be recording my podcast, etc., in my camper van, and I
Great.
I feel like what attracts me towards podcasts is this almost like this moment, and maybe we're at this in this podcast, right, where you get to these kind of few minutes in where you're relaxing into the formats and the kind of constructs around us, like the place you're in and the tech you have set up, and then you start to share more about your, you know, what's unique about you, like your superpowers, and of course your experiences in your life that make us all unique. And you know,
Yeah.
if you want to sell anything in your life, you know, sell the thing that is um uh you have infinite abundance of, which is like it's you, like you're what's unique about you. And I love how, although I have some fears of public speaking, podcasts are I find very nurturing, and including this, or I have another couple as well that I do ad hoc. So my question, Darren, is like, how do you you personally, and then also how do you help others like get to that kind of magical
Mhm.
moment in podcasts where you're able to fully express that uniqueness, whether it's in business or whether it's in, you know, people following their creative passions, or a blend of these.
Yeah. Awesome. And related to the podcasting in particular, I mean, it's not for everybody. There are a lot of people that start podcast courses and get excited and get really into it, and then for whatever reason they just never continue, and it happens a lot. So it's not for everybody, and just like anything is not for everybody. You know, we're all
Mhm.
different. We've all got different ways to express ourselves. We've all got different passions and different strengths. So for the people that want to, that feel that there's something burning inside of them, that they need to express themselves in this video slash audio form, it's just an amazing medium, and I try to keep it really simple and allow people to understand that it's not about the tech as much as it is about the expression and what's inside of you, and being authentic to who you are and that journey, as opposed to just worrying about all the technical aspects of it, because it can be very forgiving. You don't have to have the most amazing camera or the most amazing mic, or it's just got to be good enough. But it's the message that's more important. It's what we're trying to say. It's who we are. And I think the beautiful thing about podcasting is that it's universal. There are no gatekeepers, and we've all, you know, grown up watching newsreaders or listening to radio stations and thinking, oh, how cool would it be to be on the other side of the mic, talking to people and giving them our experience and our world. And so that's the beautiful thing about podcasting is there are no gatekeepers. It is a low barrier to entry. Nobody's there to tell you you can have a show or you can't have a show or you can do it only this way. The beautiful thing about podcasting is you can make it whatever it is you want to make it. I know people who do 1 second shows. I know people who do meditation in their shows. I know people who do 3 hour shows. I know people who just do video, just do audio, whatever, do shows with their pets, or who cares? I mean, you can do anything you want to do, but it's really just about allowing people to get comfortable with expressing themselves, understanding simplifying the workflow so it's not difficult, it's not overwhelming, and they don't have to get caught up in that. And they just get more creative as they continue. So that's the other thing. It's really important to remember that anything we do that's creative or anything at all, we're always learning. You know, you can't expect to have the most amazing execution on your first episode. Impossible. Mine was terrible. You know, my first episode was 10 minutes. I forgot half the questions. I ran out of questions after 3 minutes. But you learn and you get better and you have fun and you loosen up. And then, you know, you go through a few hundred episodes and it's like nothing. It's so much fun. So it's really just about trying to inspire people to do that and get out of their own way and simplify everything else so it doesn't become about that and it becomes more about what they're actually wanting to achieve. So I think that's kind of a roundabout way to answer that question, I hope.
I absolutely love that. And I think John and I's first podcast, we didn't know who to talk when we were talking, and we had so many laughs at the same time, you know, and that was wonderful. And I just remember some of my clients saying to me, like, if I've made a mistake in those videos, it's like those short videos, because we become so self-conscious. And it's like, I can't do this today, or what's going on? And then, you know what, I thought, you know, sod it. It is what it is. If I make a mistake, I make a mistake. It's okay. And it was actually quite incredible in the sense that people got back and said, you know, that mistake that you made, thank you. It actually showed the human side to you, and it allowed me to be human as well, which was pretty incredible. So I love that we don't edit a lot as well, and I think that's inspiring, and I absolutely love the fact that because it's formatted to how you want, it's allowed you to be that authentic self. And I love how it's replaced our learning. It's replaced, I mean, I get a lot of content that I learned from those people that I admire and that I align with. It's replaced our news. It's kind of like replaced a hell of a lot of media out there. And it's also given us that opportunity to be authentically ourselves. And I love that. How do you help people get through those limitations, right? Those fears of how are people are going to see me as in who I am, right? And a lot of the times it brings up a lot of those insecurities or those limitations that we have. How can we mindfully work through that?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is really just giving people permission to take the step, take the leap, that podcasting doesn't have to be like a polished Hollywood radio show. It's not overly edited. It's not perfect. And that's the beauty of it in a way. And it can be what you want it to be. You can start small. You can get better as you go. You don't have to produce everything to the hilt. And so it's working with the psychology of people. But again, like, as I mentioned, not everybody's going to take to it. Some people are just going to say, you know what, this is just not for me. And that's fine. But the people that do have that burning desire and that have that ability and that have that passion for it, it's just about practicing, doing the reps. You know, that's the key. A lot of people start a podcast even, and after 10 episodes or 15 episodes, it just fades. It's about doing the reps. You've got to just do it regularly and consistently and be passionate about the process. It's not about the results you're going to get within the first 6 months or the first year. Just have fun in the journey, and it's amazing what will happen and what things can come about. Like if I look at my own journey of what I've been doing since I started podcasting, it's ridiculous what I've been doing. And I would have never done any of that stuff if I never did my first show. So it's just a fun journey. But, you know, I totally get it. There are people that are quite self-conscious. And the other thing to think about as well is, in that respect, you can make it a little bit more tailored to who you are. So let's say that you are a little bit more self-conscious on video. Just do audio. Don't do the video. And if you love the video and you love that kind of stuff, do the video. And you can even still have your own YouTube channel without showing your face. You just got to be creative. Maybe you can use a caricature, a cartoon. Maybe you can use just a graphic of who you are. I've seen this a million times. And all you're having the podcast audio behind it. But you still got a YouTube channel. So that can be powerful as well from a search engine point of view. So you don't have to do video and audio or do this or do that because everybody else is doing it. just do it the way it's going to make you comfortable. If it's a 5-minute show and you think you're going to run out of things to say, do it for 5 minutes. I know people who do a 1 minute or 30-second message every morning. That's it. So it can be whatever you want it to be. It's really just an expression of who you are at that point in time, an expression of your creativity, expression of your creative journey, maybe where you want to go, and let things just be and happen as they will. So that's the best way to put it.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
We mentioned this a couple of times about editing, and just before we came on, we were chatting a bit about it as well. Like this notion of like content. I mean, burnout applies to everyone, right? But content creator burnout, I feel the pressures a little bit myself. And it was quite funny because as you were talking, Darren, I was reflecting on how in my journey, certainly since about 2017, that I've been more serious about producing, creating music each day and publishing it on YouTube. That I've been, and I don't mean this sarcastically, I just prefacing this, that I feel blessed of having a relatively small following on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, because it would be like dynamite for me if it was a large following, because I would have very dramatically like leapt into it. I would have been like, oh, I need to just keep doing this a lot, and I would hinge, almost like tightly couple that, especially with music. I would like, maybe I need to write 5 songs a day. And I'm like, I just got to be like, more, who does more songs to me? I'll do more than them, whatever it would be. I would become very kind of competitive with that. Yeah. With my own dream, and then be so tightly coupled with things like the numbers. So I'd say like, there's that risk of saying to myself, well, I love myself and I consider myself worth and success directly connected with these numbers that this little app on that YouTube gives you for looking at your channel stats. And I realized that it did take me a few years to realize that actually that lesson for me is to not have those tightly coupled, that it's actually really helpful. But still, I get these recommendations, relatively unintelligent recommendations from some of the social media platforms saying, John, you need to post each day because that's how you're going to grow your audience. Your audience want you to post each day. And literally that day I'd posted 4 videos already. And I'm like, no, and I'm not listening to you. Like, worse than it being wrong. I know that I'll also need time off. And I was really interested in your journey, both yourself and then when you're also advising others, perhaps once they've got started and they're starting to see some sort of growth, and they're starting to couple some success in their business, or maybe their boss is saying, hey, like that podcast, it's like, I know the numbers are small, but the impact's huge, and you start to realize that what starts a very personal and vulnerable thing of sharing your kind of inner secrets with the world, then becomes more coupled with something that's driving your income. What advice or what experiences do you have for people that go through that?
That's a really good one. So what I generally tell people is that I don't like to get too caught up in the metrics. So I don't care how many downloads and how many people watched it and viewed it and who liked this episode and posted that episode. Of course, you go and have a look at for a second or two just to get a sense of what your audience might be resonating with. But I much rather prefer people just continue to put out great episodes, get better, enjoy the journey without getting caught up in the metrics. And the reason is that I think podcasting is a real superpower from a content creation point of view. That's where its real power is. It's not so powerful. It is powerful, but it's unless you've got a massive following, it's not as huge a powerful as it is when you're just using it for brand awareness, but it's the content that you can generate from it. So this conversation, we've now recorded this. We've got so many amazing sound bites, so much great knowledge and insight that can help people. And this can be incredible content on all our social media platforms, in our newsletters, on our email signatures, possibly in physical marketing material if you want to somehow put something together. I mean, there's a million ways we can use this stuff. And that's the true power of a podcast, I think. It's more just a way to create this endless supply of quality content. And the metrics and everything else is just a byproduct of the journey. That's how I look at it. And so I try to get people to realize that's where the true power lies. So they don't have to focus and get so wrapped up in every like or share or, and I put up an episode sometimes and I get hundreds of views, and then I put up an episode and get 35 views. All right, fine, you didn't like that, no problem. So no problem, no big deal. So, and that's like on social media. It could be could be downloads, it could be YouTube, it could be anything. So I try to just get people to realize that that's where the true power is. And from a monetization point of view, you mentioned, it was really interesting, is that it depends on how you want a podcast. Like, do you want a podcast to use that as your full-time revenue generating strategy? And you can do that for sure. Or do you want to use it as a tool to build awareness for anything else that you do? So I'm a photographer. If I have a podcast about photography, I build awareness for my photography brand and my services. So that's, you can do it that way too. So you don't have to worry about monetizing it directly. You can monetize it just because of where you're driving people to. And then there's everywhere in between as well, because there's so many fun ways to monetize now, from merchandise and selling premium resources and affiliates and all sorts of other things that you can do. But it's really just about what you are trying to achieve, and to try not to get too caught up and wrap your whole identity up in this fickle algorithm, or, if 50 people that day just decided to be more present and looked at your stuff compared to the next day, you're not going to wrap your whole self-esteem and identity up in that. That's crazy. So it's really just about that kind of a reality check. And of course, it's not easy, because we all get, we all have egos and we all get sucked into that. But I think it's just important to take a step back and reflect on why you're really doing this. And that can help as well.
Beautiful. That really resonates with me, because recently I've started going live as well and giving Akashic messages. And I think the algorithm kind of like pushed one of my videos, and I did feel the pressure. And I had to remind myself, it's like that why. And it's like, you doing this to be of service. And those that will find you is because they're in alignment with that. So it's got nothing to do with any of that. It's like, you're here to be of service. It's not about you. It's really, it's like, it's really not about you. And that helped me quite a bit. So thank you both for mentioning that as well.
It's a creative expression of who you are. It's like, if you're any artist does something first and foremost for themselves, and then second for the audience.
Yeah.
It's like, if you told Picasso that he couldn't paint anymore, he'd probably cut off his hand. He'd go nuts. So he didn't care who was, I've got no idea about, what was in Picasso's mind, but any artist is drawn to do something because they love it, and the benefit always comes second. So that's where you find your longevity, because you just love to do it, and you don't care so much about how much money am I going to make, how many people am I going to reach. Just let it happen.
Beautiful. I love that you've got all these passions, and you can feel it. I went through your website a little bit, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I can feel this excitement. And I think when we do what we love, it's like, it's hard to pull back. And John and I were kind of talking about this earlier. And how do you bring balance between life and business, especially if you're like a workaholic and you love what you do? It ends up becoming kind of like I was saying, I was like, my goodness, I have children and I have a mom and I have 2 dogs. So it's like, I need to place them into that, having that fun aspect. How do you bring balance to your life and your passion?
Yeah, that's a really good one. And I'm going to paraphrase something that I recently heard. Like, a few people have said, there's no such thing as balance. Because really, at the end of the day, when we're really passionate about something and we're entrepreneurs and we like to get things off the ground, we'll go through periods of madness, and then we'll pull back and go through periods of realigning ourselves for a little while, and then we'll go through another tangent, we'll go through more madness. And so that's kind of the journey. You never really, as a creative entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur, I don't think you can ever really say that you're perfectly balanced and you 10% of that, 50% of that, and 20% of that every single week. And that ratio never changes. You'll have crazy times, and then you'll have calmer times when you might have done what you had to do, and you might burn out a little in a good way, take a break, recharge, and then go back in and do something. So you just have this natural flow. But still the key is you have to live your life. Obviously, you have to function, you have a family, you have bills to pay. So you've just got to try and find ways to put controls around what you do, to somehow put guardrails so you don't go too off the rails, so you don't go too crazy and you don't totally lose the plot. So I think as a crazy, passionate entrepreneur, I think that's the key, is to just put some controls in place so you allow yourself to go crazy every now and again, but in the back of your mind, you always know for how long and when you have to come back to real life. And this could be from a daily point of view as well. You might say, all right, I'm going to allow myself these few hours in the day to do my thing. And then I'm going to be a mum. Then I'm going to be a dog for a walk. I'm going to be a dad, or I'm going to be a husband or a wife, or whatever, or I'm going to get into my corporate world stuff, so you just got to find ways to make sense of it for you. But I don't really believe, in my experience anyway, because that's how I am, I'm all or nothing. I'll dive in, I'll go 24/7 until I'm ready to just do something else, and I'll come back to it or take a bit of a break. I'll just know myself. So you just got to know yourself and flow with your own energy, really.
Beautiful.
My wife has this funny joke which she alternates depending on what it is that I when she catches me moaning about something. So if I say, for example, oh, I did a live stream and there wasn't many people there, she just looks at me and says, well, you need to meditate harder. And then we both start laughing. And then if I moan about, not having enough people in it, maybe enough people, I don't feel enough people are watching my podcast, she'll say like, then you need to be more yourself more, like be yourself harder. And I'm like, oh, I just can't stop laughing. And it's so funny. And it all stems from some family game we were playing years ago when I was said to my sons, I think I said to my son, guess harder. And I've never lived it down since then. And what I love about many aspects of content creation and the digital world is that it's like we're encouraged to explore new aspects of ourselves, and especially those that we may consider of little or even negative value to others. So one, like if I just looked at, the raw number of likes that I have on my YouTube community page as one indicator, which I sometimes glance through. My dog Patch, who's just sat the other side of my laptop here, he wins every time, no matter what I do. He's there, and people just say, but it's his ears flop up and down. And I'm like, but I just transformed my life. But his ears, John, they're so cute. And I'm like, yeah, it's a good point. He is a very handsome dog. And any interaction, he's so random in his behavior, and he could have his own channel. And if he could talk, a podcast. And I do love exploring with different modalities. I do. In fact, after this, I'm going on a road trip. I'll probably just stick my phone on my dashboard and just talk constantly. I'm not even sure yet what I'm going to talk about, and I love that because it's literally just like it keeps me awake. There's someone next to me in the camper van. And people, when they watch it, they say that it's like, I was there with you. It's like, I know, thank you for joining me on the journey. Like I was talking to you the whole time.
Amazing.
And I'm really fascinated. Like how do you help guide people to that kind of that golden part of themselves that they will, I don't know, like we all set out with these, ideas when we create a new podcast or content idea, like a kind of vision about what we'd like to achieve. And it evolves, right? It always evolves beyond what we expect. How do you help guide people to that? Like help them explore the things that would help, bring out the things that are most magical about them?
Yeah, I think it's really just trying to lead in a good way, lead by an example. So kind of influence people so they can see what I've been able to do and that they can do it as well. I'm just a simple guy, nothing special. And if I've been able to do this, then everybody else can as well. It just needs a bit of patience and a bit of consistency. And so I think it's just really about giving them the tools, obviously, and making it easy, giving them the confidence and practicing. Sometimes it takes a bit of practice and a bit of role playing. And sometimes, we go through that as well. But then once they're ready, they're flying and they're loving it, and then they start to kick into that creative expression in the moment, and that mindful creative expression, and they don't second guess themselves, they don't check themselves, and they just start to enjoy the process. So I suppose the answer is really just doing anything you can think of to get yourself to that point where you're starting to have fun, and then it'll almost take you the rest of the journey. But you've got to just hack your brain. If it's get a coach, talk to your spouse, do it with somebody else, practice in a different way, do it in an environment that might be more conducive to your creativity. Just find a hack that's going to allow you to get over that first hurdle. And then once you're over it, you'll never look back, because you're having so much fun and you're in your element. So that's really the thing. It's so hard. Everybody's got a different motivator. Everybody's got a different way of thinking about what they're trying to do and how to express themselves. So it's just really helping people find that rhythm, and it's really very, very personal, very subjective.
I love that, Natasha. We were saying a lot on your live stream yesterday, like follow your joy, and it's really funny because I say it a lot. Often we're guided to share these messages with people, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's like I love that, Darren. It's like this, when you try these different things and you just allow, yourself to release of like what it, the tech or the constraints of what you're wearing or how you look, or when you release the thing that kind of holds you back the most, it allows that joy feeling, and you just ask yourself, oh, how does it feel? I always, for what it's worth, feel so excited and energized after a podcast. I'm like, I love this. I could do this all day.
Absolutely. And that's why to this day, I've never done one episode as a proper podcast on my own. I've always done it with guests, because I just feed off other people, and I love talking to other people, and I love learning from other people. So for me, that's my thing. But there are some people that just love to get out there, and they've got so much great knowledge, and they've got a beautiful way of speaking and communicating, that they can be very entertaining for an hour just talking to the mic. I can't do that. Some people have just got that. So you just got to be aware of your strength and just run with it. And as you say, not worry about the result. Just think ahead and say, even if I never make a cent out of this, am I doing it just because I want to do it and I enjoy the journey? Then you've got the secret recipe. Because if you can continue doing it that way, not worrying about the actual result, you've won.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I want to ask you something on the recruitment side of things, Darren. Like, I know that business is changing as we shift, especially because we've got more of a kind of like a more spiritual. How are you, especially as a recruiter, it must be so interesting. How do you align people and matching kind of like the businesses so that it's almost kind of like an alignment of perhaps passion and purpose and what excites them, because how is that changing as we move forward into this kind of like new era of business? How are you seeing that?
Good question. Good one. Recruitment has always been, we call ourselves corporate matchmakers.
Yeah.
Like recruitment have always been about matching skills as well as personalities and styles of management or company and candidate. And it's always more over the years, it's really developed more and more every year, how important it is to match the personality and the style and the authenticity and the integrity and the aptitude and the attitude more so than the aptitude. Whereas at one stage years ago, it was more about what skills do you have? What have you done? What's your experience? Okay, great. Now it's so much more about who are you? How are you going to fit into this team or this company? And even if you don't have everything that we want, we'll train you the rest of the way. So it's become very much about matching people and matching tech or skills second, but matching people first. matching personalities, matching attitudes, because you could teach anybody anything after a certain amount of training, but you can't always teach people attitude or a certain personality fit or a certain cultural fit from a company point of view. So that's the most important thing. And that's what we're finding. That's what companies are really want to focus on, because and from the flip side, every company now realizes that there can be one or two incredibly powerful, employees that are actually producing a lot, but they're actually ruining the corporate culture. They're absolutely poisoning the rest of the environment and the team and the culture. And it's better to get rid of them, even though they're the biggest producing element, because for the greater good, you're still going to bounce back and have much more opportunity for other people to step up and build a better force in general than just have that or everything pinned on that one person and be a victim. No, so what's not the word, not a victim, but being a hostage to that person because they are, the most such an important asset, but they're just a terrible person. So that's another way to think of it. The other way around, like we have to. It's really about the personality first, attitude first. The rest of it can be taught or trained to a degree.
Yeah, that's so true. My experience at Amazon, if I can say the word, we had to hire at points like over 130,000 people, and we're seeing like huge challenges of scaling recruitment. And every single experience, and I focused a lot initially on internal mobility and built an artificial intelligence recommendation service for employees to find jobs around the company, around the world. And yeah, it absolutely rings true. The even at that time back in about 2018, 2019, companies like Amazon had decided that they didn't need programmers that needed to know C# or Java. They needed good programmers, and that actually, so for example, if I hired a C# developer into my Java programming language development team, it would just take them like maybe just 2 or 3, maybe even by 4 months. You couldn't tell the difference in their capability, but their attitude was and their behaviors is what rung true the most. And I think on that journey, just towards the end of my time at Amazon and in recruitment, I also realized that on top of personality, or perhaps as parts of our personalities, is also our energy, and it's like in other words, like the energy of how cohesive you are. Like what are your ethical and moral beliefs and desires for the work that your team does and the company does. Sorry?
What are your core philosophies? How do you live your life?
Yeah. And I worked in very controversial work. So, anything with AI and people is definitely more controversial. And in that way, it yields great responsibility, right? You know that you want to do a good job for your fellow humans, and especially when your AI can touch thousands or millions of people at scale, you want it to be taught as best you can teach it. I'm really fascinated in the energetic side, like when you're trying to match people, how much do you look beyond some of the more traditional tests of like personality tests, IO psychology, even some of the more rogue AI. I call it rogue because it's not really governed yet, and a lot of people don't know what they're doing with it, but they're using it in recruitment. I'm really interested in how you feel about helping understand people's energy as a way of matching them into different jobs.
Great. I love that. I think that's where the power of a recruiter is that's why we always talk about the birth and the emergence of AI, and is it going to affect the recruitment industry? The recruitment industry has been talking about this for the last so many years, ad nauseum, because there is lots of tech out there that can help us do our job, but our real strength as a recruiter or as any kind of broker is matching energy and matching personalities and driving outcomes. it's not about the technical aspects. So how do I go about it? It's really just, it's just a combination of, I've been doing this for 25 years. So it's just my experience. It's the way that I enjoy people, the way that I talk to people. I've always been a people person. So that's probably why I fell into recruitment in the first place. It's one of those industries that you just fall into. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to be a recruiter. Somehow we've always got these stories about we fell into the recruitment industry doing other things. Because every recruiter's got their story. But it generally attracts people that enjoy other people. And so we naturally try to match personalities and energy and fit. That's what we're matching. I'm talking to a manager and I'm subconsciously understanding who they are as a person energetically as well. And then when I find someone else, I just can subconsciously say those two will match. I can't say why.
It's a feeling, right?
Just a feeling. It's just a gut. And there's no psychometric test or other test that can help me with that. It's just you get a sixth sense, and the more you do it, the better at your attitude you get. And you still mess it up for sure, but it just comes with experience and comes with practice. But I think you've just got to lean into that as a recruiter. You've got to lean into that and say, I'm talking to a person. And I often do this, funny enough. Great question. When I'm actually doing a series of interviews, I'm doing them on Zoom a lot of the time, most of the time. And sometimes there are 2 or 3 people that are really well, very, very similar skill, very, very good. But there's just one that just grabs me energetically and I'm just drawn to them and I'm awake. And the others, I'm just almost falling asleep. And I often think to myself, wow, like, why is that? And my client obviously will be exactly the same. They all resonate with that one person and not the other because of that energy. So that I know, I kind of just sense, I feel in my gut, who's the one because of that energy sensation. So you've almost got to trust your gut and trust your energy radar, as well as being so cognitive of, the skills and the experience and dissecting it from an analytical point of view.
Beautiful.
And I wish I could answer that in terms of how I do it, but I think it's just what it is.
It's magic.
It's magic, yes. I love that. And Darren, how do you see the industry adapting in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, the recruitment industry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be lots of tech, much more tech, more and more tech, but the power of the recruiter is not in what we need to do with tech is to embrace it and use it where we can use it, where it's not our core function. Our core function is dealing with people and measuring energy and matching energy and all that stuff. A piece of tech can't do that. A piece of tech can help us do, I don't know, streamlining follow-up SMSs and phone calls and workflow and sending invoices and whatever, all that kind of mundane stuff. So cleaning up the database and sending follow-ups and blah, blah, blah. So we have to use tech and recording interviews and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's what it's going to be, more and more tech, more and more AI used in all these daily functions that we need to do from a statutory point of view and from a admin point of view, but then clearing more space for us to actually be involved in conversations and talk to people face to face or on the phone or in Zoom and do the work that a computer can't do. So that's really where it's going to be. And recruiters are always talking about this, just like in most industries are, but we're always saying, oh, well, AI interrupt us and disrupt us and replace us and all that kind of stuff. But the answer is no, I don't think so, because a broker is there as the middle person between two people, particularly in the recruitment industry, and a computer just cannot do that. Only a human can be in between two humans.
Yeah.
For all those things we just discussed.
I definitely resonate with that. I remember when I first started in AI in recruitment, building systems, the initial, this is 2018, initially many recruiters were nervous about what we were doing because they're like, oh, you're going to take our jobs. And what was fascinating to see, it only took a couple of years for them to realize that that was never going to happen. And it also wasn't, it not just wasn't our intention building software, but it, to your very point, it's like it was obvious to them of the capability. And so if we were having this conversation where, I don't know, there was a fourth podcast member here that was our AI, you know,
Yep.
today, in today's technology, it would be quite obvious. It would take a lot of heavy editing to like get this, the fourth podcast member to like be more interactive. They could say some stuff. They might even be able to, repeat and do some searches online and summarize some stuff. But and the energy would likely be quite weird because it would be, a machine alongside three humans. And I do love that, seeing the value in the human touch, because you're absolutely right. Like, AI can be used to help like explore new things, like help break us humans out of some of our comfort zones. Like for example, can florists be developers? Like, well, how would we know? Well, we won't know until we hire some florists and see them in the job and see how that feels. And maybe they just have such attention to detail because they're worried about their plants, their flowers dying, and they need to sell them fast. And they want great presentation, that whatever skills they're developing that are transferable, but not super obvious to us humans. And I like like that definitely appeals to me, that exploration aspect of artificial intelligence. And yet some of the challenges I know we have is like getting really good at, as a species, at teaching AI responsibly across all the things we do, because it's learning all the time. It's learning from this podcast, right? It'll be, there's a transcription service on at least YouTube, and that data is going into some very large foundational large language model, and it's being consumed. Hello, AI, and be good. And I do feel that it's important to lead by example, and one day, sure, we'll have more help from our AI friends. But I love that at the very core of what we are about, being human, is being unique and being vulnerable and being humble, and yet, creators beyond our wildest dreams when we put ourselves into the right opportunities.
And you made a really good point, made me think that it's really going to be about a lot of it, like a developer. Like these days, at some point you might not need a developer to physically write code, but you will still need somebody to prompt or feed or manage that process. So there'll be all these jobs for people to do where they don't have to come from that background. They just have to have some smarts and common sense and other softer skills around how they get the best out of the tools, out of the tech. And so that's kind of where it's all going. But at the end of the day, we're still humans working with each other, and we're just going to be working out how to get the best out of the tech at our disposal. But the tech is not going to take over our world. It's just how we control it, or maybe control's not the best word, but how we facilitate it.
Yeah.
So I love that. And it's making things easier, which is beautiful. Working with a lot of conscious leaders, do you see a shift in really focusing on the humanity aspect of it? I mean, I know John and I worked for an internet service provider, and I was so excited. I love the aspect of voice over IP, especially like being South African, having country all over the world and all the rest of that. And I love the fact that, at the beginning, I was like, oh my goodness, we can get our emails to our phones. And I was like, this is awesome. And I was like, but I also didn't realize the other side of that, where we're always on. We're always an email away. The office doesn't stop. It doesn't go from 9 to 5. It now goes weekends. The expectations have come up, all the rest of that. And I find myself almost wanting to bring in that aspect of, okay, weekend's a weekend, because otherwise it's just especially again, when we do what we love, it's always there. So working with mindful leaders in business, how do you see, is there a shift that's happening to bring in a little bit of that, I know, work-life balance, or kind of like how, mindful
That's
leaders actually kind of like bring in that, aspiration to keep their people excited and creative and, really bringing in the humanness of the ideas and the creativity. Like, is there support mechanisms that they're putting in place? So, for example, Vision from Mind Valley, he does this incredible thing where he asks his people, like, what is something that they want to achieve? What is a big dream of theirs? Whether it's climbing Mount Everest or whether it's starting their own business or whatever it is, and they place it up on a board, and people are like, and then they start to build that. You want to climb Mount Everest? It's a dream of mine too. And then all of a sudden it starts to create community, and we start to empower people to do what they love. And I love that idea that he does that. Are you seeing that kind of a thing in mindful leaders in actually supporting their teams and their people to really step into working with that creative side of theirs?
Definitely. Like, obviously there are lots of leaders that don't do that, and there are lots of leaders that do that and recognize how powerful and how important it is. So, like, in the recruitment industry, it's no secret that around the world, I think there is a massive shortage of talent. So we're always looking for people for different roles, and if companies don't get smart about how they maintain and inspire and set the stage for people to be happy and inspired and motivated and satisfied and everything else, they're just going to leave and go to their competitor. So companies are getting really good now, the good ones, in really putting a lot of energy into culture, into training, and days off to actually study, days off just for the sake of it, mental health days, team building exercises, off-sites, whatever it is, helping people achieve their personal goals, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's more and more important. And good companies, if they want to succeed, because they have good people, they have to do that. There's no two ways about it. Because if you don't, they're just going to leave and go to your competitor who does it better than you.
That's fascinating. I had a client session yesterday. She was is a recruiter, and we were getting advice, like from higher aspects of herself about how her role would continue to change in helping place people, and what we were hearing was this really fascinating like evolution, where it's very common today to see salary, location, and in fact we know that location is often more important than the salary. And I guess for all the things that a physical location brings, and then sometimes the lack of physical and more virtual or a balance. But we see less of many of the things you guys have just mentioned, right? Like, hey John, you should join this job because I know you found it hard for 26 years in software, but this is a whole new company. We have a great work-life balance. Imagine doing all the things you get to do and love in your life, where and there's no pressure for you to work in a certain pattern, to wear specific things, to use certain technologies. Like, we're just so interested in the results, and they're really aligned with your philosophies. What we want in the world is what you want. And I think I'd love to see those, like, kind of the key kind of things that hook us as humans in that matching process from both sides expand a bit more, to be more balanced across like our love and our life, our family, and our work, because they're all together, right? I've worked with too many colleagues, including myself, who just burnt out, right? You work so hard, and then you're like, oh, like Natasha said, I was missing all those other things. Like, if you just ignore the rest of your life, it's amazing how fast everything falls apart, right? But when you cultivate all dimensions of it, and you say, yeah, like, it's really important, a lower salary, if that meant more time with my family, well, that's great. But why do I have to? Are they, tightly coupled at all? Would actually earn more, would actually be more productive if I was happier and healthier and more aligned with my dreams and following my personal goals, and have close, loving relationships with my kids and my partner. And yeah, I'd love us to, help inspire the rest of the world to expand our. In many respects, it's from both a hiring company and a candidate perspective. It's like our mutual desires, like on both sides. It's like this is what we want from each other.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if your manager every month or 2 months took you aside and said, "So, how you doing? What's happening in your life? Have you achieved? Remember that thing that Mount Everest? Are you getting closer? Have you planned it yet? Why not? What can we do? How can we help?"
Yeah.
I mean, let's get serious about who we work with and who we are from a deeper level than just, "Oh, they're doing a job for me and they'll see you on Monday."
Yeah.
So isn't that the logical way to make people happy, and people will never even entertain leaving if you work with people in that way. It's like they'll be with you for life because look how you treat them. So that's that's how recruitment industry should and is getting better in that respect.
I'm glad to hear that. So it's, as long as it's aligned, because I've had these visions of what it looks like, right? Even having kind of like a mental health person kind of like supporting the team in order to encourage that, right? No matter what they would be. So that really excites me because I've seen that vision in the future and that aligning with that. And the other thing that I've seen as well is, or another possibility is that a lot of people start really contracting in order to do that. So hiring contractors. So the individuals end up managing their work-life balance and their passions, and they fit their work in and around that aspect of it as well. So I don't know if you've seen that almost kind of like coming up as well sometimes.
That's a really good point. I haven't seen as many people moving, or maybe I don't really know if they're moving to contracting for that reason, but that's a really good point. But certainly one of the things that's come out of the last 3-4 years has been the focus on how people work. So a lot of times people will leave jobs and look for other jobs that give them more days to work at home because they've so used to working in a different way, picking up their kids, doing whatever they got to do. And a lot of the time they're more productive at home, and all these long commutes and everything else is just will drain on their time and energy. So a lot of people are really focusing that as like their main priority for leaving a job, getting a new job, which is fascinating. Like years ago, you didn't even think about that, but that's what's been born out of the last 3 or 4 years of how the world's changed. So it's fascinating stuff.
Love it.
Well, should we get on to mindfulness?
Shall we get on to mindfulness? Yes.
Perfect segue.
Mindfulness, perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. Before we jump into the meditation, Darren, would you be able to tell us how can people reach you? How can they get in touch, and how can they take advantage in a positive way of the beautiful services that you offer?
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'll keep it really simple. If anybody wants to just jump on my website, just jump on suspendedanimation.com.au and you can find links to everything from there. And if you're interested in maybe learning a bit more about podcasting, I've got a free 7-day challenge that you can jump on. You'll get all sorts of great resources every day for 7 days that will help you really understand the mindset of podcasting, as well as the tools and the tech and how to set up your show and all that kind of stuff. So it's all on the website. You can jump on and check it out.
Beautiful. Thank you. Shall we do a quick meditation?
Yeah, it'd be fabulous. Thank you.
Okay.
I have to say in a particular way.
No, you don't. Just whatever makes you comfortable.
Right.
John and I are the non-rule people, I suppose. It is better sometimes if you close your eyes, but it's really about breathing and connecting into your breath. And taking a couple of deep breaths, breathing in through your nose. And when you exhale, release any tension, stress, or negativity that you're holding on to within your body. using our breath as a clearing mechanism by breathing in calm and exhaling all that no longer serves. And as you continue to breathe deeply and completely, you feel more and more relaxed. I'm now going to invite you to bring your attention to the soles of your feet. And imagine that you have, well, we do have energy centers on the soles of our feet. I'm going to invite you to imagine that they're opening up and allow the exchange of energy between you and Mother Earth. And as you start to feel this grounded energy, breathe it in through the soles of your feet, up into your body. And allow it to energize every single cell within your body. Visualize this energy replacing, replenishing, reviving each cell, each system. And we start to realize that there's so much happening without us knowing within our bodies. And as we feel completely grounded and connected, I'm going to ask you to envision a golden energy coming up from above, penetrating the top of your head, opening up your crown to receiving the creative ideas, the intuition, connecting you to your guides, connecting you to all things beyond time and space. And as this energy moves down into the center of your mind, it opens up your seat of intuition, your vision, allowing you to creatively see solutions, allowing you to creatively envision how you can best express yourself in the world. And allow this golden light to move down into your throat, also known as your avenues of self-expression. And allow this energy to creatively activate the center of self-expression so that you can feel confident in expressing yourself in ways that you are seen, that you are heard, that you are understood. And allow it to open this energy center up for you to see others, to hear others, to understand others. And allow this golden energy to continue moving down your body into your chest, into your heart space. And allow this energy to open up and activate the joy, the excitement, your passion. Allow it to be that guiding force that allows you to follow your joy, your excitement. Activating the unconditional love for ourselves and for life. And allow this golden energy to continue to move down and connect into your solar plexus, your center of power. And allow this golden energy to activate the will to step into living a life of excitement and of passion and of expression without fear. Releasing the fear of shining your light and being yourself completely. And allow this golden light to continue to move down into your sacral, into your belly, your center of creation. And allow this golden light to activate the ability to physically manifest into reality that which you envision for yourself. Releasing the limitations, the fears, the what ifs, the maybes. Activating the strength, the ability, the creativity to manifest your desires into physical reality. And allow this golden energy to continue to move down into your tailbone. And allow it to release the fears, the distrust of living your passion, living your purpose. And allow this golden light to completely flood your body, your cells, activating the creative codes within us. Every cell absolutely vibrant and expanded. And for one moment, let's sink into our heart. And if your heart were a person, ask the question, what brings you joy? Ask the question, what's the best way to express yourself? What is your passion? And one last question. What is one thing that I can do today to activate this passion, this purpose, this expression, to be of service to myself and humanity? And let's thank the heart for expressing who they are as they are us. And let's take one moment to action, taking that one step forward into expressing who we are in this world without fear, without limitation, and find the joy in life once more. And I'd like to say thank you for this activation that we have experienced today. And thank you to the heart for expressing its knowledge and wisdom. Take another deep breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Wow, thank you. That was a real adventure. Really beautiful.
That's fun.
Having
Oh,
a
I think
conversation with your heart. It's always good to have a conversation. What is my passion?
that was great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Darren, for coming on. Thank you, Natasha. A beautiful meditation
John.
and just a wonderful open connection and discussion. My heart said, it's the people, John. You love working with the people, connecting with people, and make sure they know it, you know, with your energy when you see them. And it's like, okay, I can do it. So thank you so much. And yeah, please do check out Darren. And I'll put your link in the description of this video, or if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or many other platforms, you'll see it in the description of the podcast episode. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys again soon. And thank you, Darren. We'll look forward to catching up with you at some point in the future.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Loved it.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.